Thank you. Right, so away from the ODM saga that has been the top headline in most political analysis since 2 days ago, we also want to recap to you what has taken place within the week. This particular exchange between Honorable CS Duale and of course Rigathi Gachagua that has mounted so much heat in the political scene, not only in the northeastern part, but now also in the national scene. And other than that, there is even more shocking revelation coming from some elders who came from some elders of the northeastern part that Honorable Duale might not be a Kenyan. So a position of the People's Mirror is that, of course, Honorable Duale is a Kenyan cabinet secretary, and for you to become a Kenyan cabinet secretary, you have to be a Kenyan. But we will detail all that story for you in just a few, so that you let us know what you think. Now, away from the ODM saga, which is the top political headline in most political stories in the past 48, now feeding into 72 hours, there is also a lot of political occurrences that have taken place over the week and are interesting for your consumption, but might have died down, of course, because of the nature of how the ODM story was received. Now, in this episode, we want to put before the mirror a very interesting story that might have escaped you, but of course also happened within the week, before of course the week comes into an end and before we detail more other political stories. Now, primarily, if this is the first time you're interacting with our channel, you've never been here before, or perhaps you have seen our videos before but have never hit the subscribe button, please take just a few seconds and hit the subscribe button. If you take a look at our channel, you'll find we're around 3,450. You see, the Holy Spirit is almost saying 4,000. We're at 3,450, and if you interacting with our channel for the first time was to hit the subscribe button, then perhaps just as the Spirit is feeling, we might hit 4,000 subscribers mark in a record time that we do not expect. So do this also because when you do that, you get timely political stories from our channel, and also you help us grow to be here, of course, to sustain this particular update on what happens in the Kenyan political scene. So thank you for taking time to do that. Now let's go back to this story. Starting from the top, the story started by some revelation that Duale actually is not a Kenyan, and this revelation shocked a lot of people because how would Duale fail to be a Kenyan, yet of course he's the cabinet secretary within the Kenyan government? And of course these concerns have existed because even by the time that a seat was being contested in the Mandera area, of course we detailed that particular story, there were concerns that the member of parliament that was being fronted for that particular by-election was not a Kenyan. Now, these porous border issues exist, and history can detail them in whatever way, but Nyota also found its way into Garissa, which is actually our main story. You see, some times back, Rigathi Gachagua just ridiculed this particular story of northeastern leaders actually doing business in Nairobi at the expense of their people, and northeastern businessmen, of course, developing South Sea and Isili at the expense of their people. Now, that story was responded to by including the governors from the northeastern part. And now Nyota, which is President William Ruto's program to empower the youth across the nation, found its way in Garissa over the week. You would say that perhaps this was in line because President William Ruto's Nyota program is aimed at reaching the youths across the nation. But the timeliness within which it was taken to Garissa, let us know in the comment section if you know perhaps if it was timetable that this was the time it was supposed to go to Garissa, or Garissa was just a picked up location and were GR areas picked up locations to respond to the northeastern concerns which have been rising concerns lately. But that might be a little bit digress. Now, while talking about Nyota, Honorable Duale also addressed Honorable Rigathi Gachagua. So you see a triangular nature of these particular concerns. It's important that we start from the top, and this is the top.
We formed the Congress Party. Sasa wale hawana tarehe katika northeast kama Duale. Baba yake hata habijui mahali alitoka. Ndio leo alipatwa minister. It is quite unfortunate. It is kina Khalif, familia Khalif kutoka Wajir. Kina Ogles kutoka Wajir. Kina Shang Alice from Mandera. kina Kahias from Mandara, kina Hajis. Hata hiyo mimi naamini Nurdin is unhappy of whatever is happening because his father, his grandfather were anti-Somali. So we are appealing to the government to reintroduce the screening of Somali in order to what? To flush out non-Kenyans. We are being swallowed like Somalis has become a shark. You know what a shark is? Yes. Well, to swallow, they swallowed us. If you go to Isli has become a safe haven for aliens. There's no tax going on. Hakuna ukienda kwa duka hata hupatiwi risiti kwa ajili they are evading tax KRA. They are evading what? Tax KRA. Haya, hata county government, they don't even issue license. Ukienda kwa hoteli hii, boarding and lodges, hardly will you be given a receipt. Ukiuliza receipt unatupwa hii. Wanasema Duale hajatuambia. Wanasema nini? Wanasema Duale hajatuambia. Hajatuambia. Duale has become a small king, a small devil, who goes in between. In the 1950s State House with Somali tycoons who are from Somalia. Sisi wale wa Somali wa Kenya, tunafuraha na DCP, tunafuraha na United Opposition, tunafuraha na and we are appealing United Opposition, tafadhali ulete Rutumo. We kick out this man who has no history. Unajua history ni kitu mzuri. History is something very good for this country. Kama hujawahi kukua hata viongozi katika vile, baba yako hajawahi kukua hata elder katika hiyo village, what can you be in Kenya? Why unaweza kuwa kitu yote? If your father, your mother, even had never been a church elder.
Now, those are adverse positions that the elder is saying, but primarily you can listen to what he's saying. He's trying to bring up the whole idea that perhaps Aden Duale's lineage does not trace to what he terms as history. And he talks about now Aden Duale's position within the community rising to the level where he's now the intermediary between the businessmen and tycoons of the Somalis and, of course, the State House. He's calling for screening of the Somalis so that real Somalis can be, of course, separated from non-Kenyans. Now, from one angle, you can look at this as a political statement being engineered by the camp that is post or is against Aden Duale's position right now in the government, which could be because towards the end of this particular talk, you hear him talking about DCP and the United Opposition to bring one candidate. So primarily his political affiliations is towards the United Opposition. But that affiliation itself does not also rub away the aspect that there could be facts in what he's saying. And of course, political opinion notwithstanding, facts remain facts, and so there is more talk about this. People have reacted to it differently in the social media space, now asking for the origin of Aden Duale in history, to put him as a Kenyan that of course has been a Kenyan since history, and not only a Kenyan that has gotten to these particular positions of power through these border issues. These are sensitive information and sensitive communication when it comes to, you know, questioning the legitimacy of the citizenship of certain leaders. It's a thing that of course the registrar of persons needs to have dealt with, and that is just as much as we will get into it concerning that. Now, Duale himself, after ameakuziwa that is not a Kenyan, alikuwa Garissa and Wajir. He was working with President William Ruto again, and as we said, nyote ilijipata Garissa. And Duale was detailing the story of his mother. Just listen to this part first, where he's talking about his mother and the 2000 before we get to the substantive part of why we are playing Duale's Bite.
Karibu saa 10 mukasali salatul fajri hapa, mimi nafikiri. Your Excellency, hii nyota program, mimi mwenyewe nikiongea na wewe, na mimi ni mzaliwa wa hapa. Duka ya kwanza niliuza ya mama yangu ilikuwa na stock ya 2000. Na mnajua mama yangu alikuwa anaishi hapa Garissa ndogo, si mnajua? So for somebody to get 50,000 Wale wa mama wetu na vijana wetu wanafanya biashara katika Northern Kenya, na sisi ni jamii ya biashara. Hawa vijana, I have no doubt, na hawa wasichana, Your Excellency, that 50,000 in another 6 months itakuwa 100,000. Kweli au si kweli? Wakamajira msemajiru. Lakini kuna wengine wanasema 50,000 asi pesa, kwa sababu hawa lunch yao Serena ni 50,000, breakfast yao Kempiski ni 35,000. Lakini 50,000 is and the epitome, the philosophy behind the bottom up economic transformation ya Rais William Ruto.
Yeah, now that is what Duale said, giving clearance to his background, saying clearly that he was born in Garissa and that his mother, while he was born in Garissa, owned a shop, and that is the first shop he sold into. And of course, by that time, the capital that the mother had was just about 2,000 Kenyan shillings. So you can get what he's saying. I'm just checking, how old is Aden Duale? You know, we want to figure out something. How old is Aden Duale? So here Aden Duale is around 56 years old. Aden Duale was born on the 15th June 1969, so he's 56 years old. So we are talking about when he was selling at this shop, he was roughly 6 years old. So this is 50 years ago, and the capital then was 2,000. So what was the value? What is the comparative value? Value of 2,000 shillings in 2,000 shillings 50 years ago. 50 years ago to today. Okay, just a comparative value of 2,000 shillings 50 years ago to today. Yeah. So this thing is saying that based on economic trends and inflation in Kenya, 2,000 Kenyan shillings in 1976, that is 50 years ago, had a significant higher purchasing power than 2,000 shillings today. So while a precise inflation multiplier over 50 years is complex, the purchasing power of 2,000 Kenyan shillings in the mid-70s was likely comparable to tens of thousands of modern shillings, or possibly over 100,000 Kenyan shillings, depending on the specific goods being measured. So 2,000 shillings when Duale was around 6 years old, selling in the first shop at home, his mother's shop, the value of 2,000 shillings then, which was now around the 1970, compared to now, could be around over 100,000 Kenyan shillings. So that comparative value of 2,000 shillings, of course, to 50,000 or the 22,000 shillings that Aden Duale was trying to make, loses the argumentative value. But beyond that, let's talk about now Nyota program as it is. What is this thing? Because from one camp, it is like it's a presidential initiative that is really being celebrated, which is good for the youth because of the money that it's putting in the hands of the youth. But on another hand, it also looks like other people are saying that it's a World Bank loan. It came from Benin. So let's put clearance to this before we come back to Aden Duale. Where is Nyota coming from?
You budgeted as UDA ticket when you were elected. Was it in the budget? Because we've seen the government going around.
Pesa ya Nyota si pesa ya serikali, ni mkopo ya World Bank ambayo tunalipa. Na hii mkopo imefanywa nchi mingi sana, Benin, Senegal, kila bahali. Lakini William Ruto anafanya siasa naye. Hii ni pesa ingepatiwa bank, ipatie vijana waende wafanye kazi alafu walipe. Lakini anaitumia kufanya kazi ya siasa. Hii si pesa ya serikali, hii si mpango ya William Ruto, hii ni mpango ya World Bank, ilikuwemo hata kabla hatujaingia kwa serikali. Ni vile tu ameihijack na kuitumia kufanya siasa. Kama sasa nilikuwa naongea na wanahabari leo, anaenda Garissa, anaenda Mandera, anaenda Wajir. Watu ya huko wanasema wewe tuletee maji na chakula. Hiyo maneno ya Nyota, tumia vijana hiyo pesa na mtandao. Unatuletea pesa ya Nyota ya kufanya nini? Na tunakufa hapa na njaa, mfugo inakufa na njaa. Hiyo pesa tumia vijana kwa M-Pesa umalizane na hawa. Kama unataka kuja Mandera na Wajir na Garissa na Isiolo na Marsabit, kuja na malori ya chakula, kuja na maji, kuja na dawa, jua vile mifugo itapata pesa. anza off-take program, utoe pesa, mununue hizi ng'ombe, mpeleke KMC mchinje, ndio tutapata nafasi ya kufanya restocking kiangazi kiisha. Lakini Nyota project ni ya World Bank, anaitumia siasa kwa sababu anafikiria Wakenya ni wajinga.
Now that is the position of the United Opposition. Of course, the truthful man himself talks about the Nyota program and says it's the World Bank program, and this program perhaps have been hijacked by President William Ruto, and is even offering a solution as a United Opposition principle that send it via M-Pesa, do not do the rallies with it, or perhaps when you're going to these places also carry food. Good suggestion, but that is from the opposition point of view. The government thinks differently, and Duale has a reply to it. According to Duale, he feels like whatever Benin is doing with the money, or whatever each country is doing with the money, is up to that country. And when it comes to Kenya, whatever President William Ruto is doing with it depends on whatever President William Ruto and his team thinks fit that they need to do with this money. So essentially, he's not denying that it's a World Bank money. He's also not saying that it was allocated for. He's just saying that the way they're using it is up to them and not up to the Benin people or the way any other country is using the money. Listen.
In our manifesto, kujenga soko ili wamama wetu wasikae kwa jua, wasikae kwa mvua, biashara ndogo ya Hustler Fund, ya hii ya Nyota, it is what was envisaged kwa hiyo bottom up, kuinua watu kutoka chini kupeleka juu wakae sawa na matajiri. Lakini Your Excellency, wakati watu walisikia unakuja Garissa na unaenda Wajia na unaenda Mandera, mwenda wazimu jana alisema ati hii program inafanyika Nigeria, inafanyika Benin, inafanyika wapi, hatuoni maraisi ya huko. We have no business with what other presidents do with their citizens. We have elected President William Ruto, and he is accountable to the people. Na mbona unasema wakati hii Nyota haikuwa Nyeri, haikuwa Samburu, haikuwa Kisumu? Hile usawa katika Kenya, makosa pekee, Your Excellency, the only crime umefanya, makosa pekee Rais Ruto amefanya ni kusema Kenya na Wakenya watapewa haki yao kisawasawa, the equity of the nation.
Of course, that is the only thing the problem has done, the only problem that the president has done, and the only thing the president has done wrong is to ensure that Kenyans receive their equal share, and everything is shared in equity. So we don't know what that means. Maybe it's resources, maybe it's not giving resources, but as long as it's being done equitably, that's good. Now, on the Nyota thing, the issue is, why did you not talk about it when it was in Nyeri? Why did you not talk about it when it was in Samburu? The issue is not where is the money coming from or what. But Aden Duale defends this, and he says this very categorically to answer any other allusion that might be around Nyota. He's saying that the way they budgeted for Soko, the way they budgeted for Nyota, this is what was envisioned in their bottom-up economy, so it was in the budget. While the other guys are saying it was from World Bank, it was in the budget, guys. It was part of the bottom-up economy that was envisaged in the manifesto. I'd love to read the UDA manifesto yet again and see where Nyota was mentioned. And if it's there, if you have read it, please let us know in the comment section about Nyota and where in the UDA manifesto it was contained, so that all these quiet exchanges between whether it's from the World Bank or whether it's from the manifesto is quiet, because it really does not make sense where it's from, yeah? As long as it's impacting the people, right? Let us know in the comment section. Now, that is as much as the fight that is coming out of Aden Duale and Gachagua over the week that you might have missed because of these other stories that might have swamped it, of course, including the ODM saga. Keep it here in our studios for more stories from the political scene. In our next story, we will take a look at You Are Not Oxygen, actually a message that was sent by the governor of Mombasa to the ODM dissidents. And then we will also take a look at the fight between Wanga and Gachagua. So you don't want to miss those two stories. Keep it here, the People's Mirror.